adoptive parents are just true heroes who have literally just made the world of a difference in that child's life. And I know the child brought great light to theirs as well. But for that very, very, very tiny percentage that don't, they need to be accountable, and hopefully by virtue of this bill, we'll think twice before doing something so heinous and awful. And with that, I'll yield for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think you have a question. Representative Neal?
No question. Thank you to the chair. Thank you to my friend in the Senate side. I always enjoy working with you. Clean bill to me. At appropriate time, I'll make a move to pass.
I have a motion and a second. Was there anyone who wanted to speak to this bill? I do see Taylor Hawkins, Frontline. Is he here?
I knew he was going to speak in favor of the bill. It's one of their priorities.
Is he outside? Someone holler for Taylor. I've cut the mic on there for you, Taylor. I think you wanted to speak to Senate Bill 335.
Yes, sir, that's correct. Forgive me, I had stepped out in the hall to speak with a judge from municipal court. Yes, and perhaps a member held me up. But no, sir, I just, Taylor Hawkins with Frontline Policy Council wanted to take the opportunity to just fully endorse Senate Bill 335. It's an issue that we feel strongly a loophole needs to be closed, and for sake of brevity, I will just say we appreciate the chairman's work on this, and thank you for your consideration of this bill. We would ask the committee vote do pass.
Thank you. Any questions for this witness? I don't see any. I believe I've got a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, like sign. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much.
Probably be on our full committee hearing later on this afternoon.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We'll let you get on to your other committee meeting, but thank you for your time today. All right, Senator Dixon, I think you were thinking you might be late, but you got here about before I did, I think. So go ahead and tell us about Senate Bill 421, and welcome to the Leverett Subcommittee.
Grateful to be here to the Leverett Subcommittee, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for allowing me to present Senate Bill 421. This one is personal to me. This is a anti-swatting bill. It makes the any offenses, it increases those offenses. My family and I, unfortunately, were swatted twice over the Christmas holidays. The first time was actually on Christmas Day, and as you could imagine. Fortunate for my family, we knew about half the SWAT team that showed up to the house, so they came in a little bit, less aggressive than they normally would, from what they told me. But could be a very dangerous situation if they end up having to come into the house, and be met with the homeowner that is unaware who's coming in. So, and it happened to several other of my colleagues. Senator Kim Jackson, she was at home. Her and her wife, they adopted a son. It was their first Christmas with him, and they were swatted as well. As Chairman Albers, that was here just before me, was swatted, along with Kay Kirkpatrick and other elected officials, were all swatted during the same time. And this would strengthen those penalties for the first offense. If the call is to a dwelling, it would make it a felony. Currently, it's an aggravated misdemeanor. That would be a felony with a minimum of 1 year in prison. It increases the penalty on the second offense to a minimum of 5 years, and then third offense to 10 years. And then it also, it's optional, just to the judge's purview on restitution. If there's property damage, this would make that mandatory.
Thank you.
Be happy to.
We all followed with great deal of personal concern for you and your family what happened to y'all, and I'm so sorry that did. But to your point, it's just so fortunate nobody was hurt in that. So
yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
And I would note, I was kind of looking at your bill. I like the way it's not adding the enhanced penalty just for someone who makes a false call, although that's serious and needs to be discouraged and appropriately punished. But you've got some language in the bill that makes it clear there has to be the call has to relay information that would basically cause law enforcement to feel like a very urgent sort of guns drawn approach would be required, which could result in someone being harmed even when there was nothing going on inside the home. But it could things can happen when they're responding in that way, unfortunately. And so I appreciate the fact that you narrated it that way.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Any questions for Chairman Dixon? I have a motion to pass in a second. Now, hold on one. As Quick Draw McGraw would say, hold on there. I don't see that anybody wants to speak to this bill. Is that correct? Senate Bill 421? I don't think we do. Okay, so I've got a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? All right, there being no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, like sign. All right, congratulations. You're
Thank
on
you,
the
Mr.
full
Chairman,
committee.
committee
I
members.
think it'll likely be heard this afternoon as well when we adjourn here.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, Senator Still, are we still waiting on a sub, or would you like to, do you want to go ahead and make a presentation, or we could suspend? You tell me your.
Let's go.
Okay, all right, come on up. So is this gonna be a twofer? Are we gonna talk about both of them at one time, or you wanna do them separately?
We can just do a twofer if that works for you,
Because
sir.
they sort of go together, I think.
They do.
All right. All right, so please tell us about your bill.
A little bit of everything. Let's start with the bill because that explains the resolution, if we could. Committee, thank you all very much. So what we're discussing today is SB 512, and it's a little bit of a combo. As you said, there is a substitute coming. Some language was added in LC 48-1266S under Part 2, Section 2-1 that was not incorporated into SB 512 CSFA, and so Ledge Council is working on that right now. Should have it here shortly. So this bill is essentially the combination of 4 different bills that was rolled into one, all under the same topic of human trafficking, all related to the creation of a human trafficking victims fund. Currently in state law, we have safe harbor that protects minors, but we do not have a dedicated fund for people of all ages who are trafficked. And so what this will do is create enabling legislation for the formation of a constitutional amendment for the creation of which is in SR 616, and that is unchanged. And then that leads to the CA, which is in Section 2 of LC 481006. And as we look through the bill of SB 512 CSFA, and we go through the sections, so we're creating this because right now we're using state funds into safe harbor, and we're using NGOs for victim support. The purpose of this is to be able to use existing law on civil forfeiture, but to be able to use that if it's civil forfeiture as it relates to human trafficking, it will go into this new fund so that all those resources can directly be used for rehabilitation and care for victims of all ages, and not just limited to minors. So that's the impetus of where this comes from. The definitions of the commission and how it would be comprised starts at line 73, carries through line 94. There's a little bit about the compensation as it relates to their meetings, 95 through 104. Sections 105 through 115 define what the commission's going to do. And as that continues on,
Can I get you to spend just 1 second, Senator? I don't think we've handed out the
512 CSFA?
the current. Yeah, the sub's not in there. I don't think we've handed out the current version, but I like your thought. Maybe, do we have copies of the current version?
So
we haven't gotten the digital version of the new one. Do you want us to use the old one for right now, so we have something?
well, 512 CSFA is what passed unanimously through the Senate.
Sure, that's the one. I think you said there's a sub though, right?
Well, there is,
Because we had the original and another sub.
the
in there.
original is 512 CSFA.
But I'm saying, do you want us to hand out the original right now for everybody?
If no one has that version online or in front of them, yes. I thought we were under the impression they did. I apologize. Oh, 512 of CSFA?
So why don't we just suspend for a minute and let them
Sure.
get that together?
Thanks.
just got the sub also, so
Good, thank you.
never rains before.
And I do not have it, so you're ahead of me on that one. I have the original. I don't have the sub. I'm sorry, which one?
This is a new one?
No.
Okay.
I mean, that's. Yeah, let's just wait.
So we can get the copies of the sub handed out to everybody.
Not on this subject. We've got a few others. Not my chances. The representative knows of which he speaks. There's a good soap opera on room 450 this morning. Did y'all catch any of that? Yeah. Ashley Merchant was testifying.
All right, let's go back live now. All right, Senator, if you'll want to go ahead, and I think we've got the substitute in front of us now for Senate Bill 512. That's LC 481272S. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
All right, if you want to just, as Jerry Lewis said, just take it from the top.
Well, this is the substitute of the substitute of the substitute, so I think we're good now.
Okay.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for your patience.
And we are generating some more to hand out to everybody as well in the room.
So anybody following along, we are looking at 1272S, not 512 CSFA or 1266. So we are clear. So the first section is just as we discussed before. This is the creation of the Victims of Human Trafficking Fund and the Victims of Human Trafficking Fund Commission. So 512 explains the bill and also includes the enabling legislation for Senate Resolution 616, which will be a constitutional amendment that will read as follows, if passed. And this is starting at line 30 of LC 481006. Yes or no, shall the Constitution of Georgia be amended so as to allow additional penalties for criminal cases in which a person adjudged guilty of trafficking an individual for labor servitude or sexual servitude to fund the Victims of Human Trafficking Fund to pay for care and rehabilitative and social services for individuals in this state who have been or may be sexually exploited. The way that this commission will be funded is through convicted civil forfeiture. That is defined through the bill, and since this is a brand new version, I'm looking for the exact line to give that to you.
155 through 162.
You're jumping ahead faster than me. Yes, sir.
Well, 55 through 58 is the cause of action, but 59 through 62, I think, is.
Yes, sir. Specifically 159 through 162. Yes.
So that's your funding mechanism.
That is the funding mechanism of what's going to do. So, as we all know, civil forfeiture already exists. This is just going to specify that civil forfeiture, as it relates to the act of human trafficking for sexual servitude, will go into that fund. The committee, the commission rather, that will be created by directive, and that's relatively boilerplate language on the creation of the commission, of who will be added to that commission, is already defined in there.
You're basically tracking the safe harbor, but you're adding two more, appointee of the lieutenant governor and the speaker.
Yes, sir. And the difference between this and safe harbor is only for minors.
For children, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So this goes for all ages. Part 2, Section 2-1.
Before we move on,
Yes, sir.
I wanted to clarify. It looks like also, if you look at the bottom of page 6, starting with line 138, going to the top of page 7, you're also authorizing an additional penalty of $2,500 as with safe harbor. And I'm assuming that would that also provide funding for the commission as well?
It will, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We think that that's a drop in the bucket compared to the greater portion, but yes.
Okay.
Some additional language that was brought forth by industry friends was adding definitions of innkeeper. So as it relates specifically to housekeeping staff. So many hotels don't use W-2 employees. They use 1099s or temp agencies to do that. This ensures that they're going to be included in this as well. And in working with our friends at the CJCC, they already provide a significant amount of education on identification and reporting as it relates to human trafficking, and this puts in specific language requiring that innkeepers complete required training courses that are defined by CJCC and approved by the GBI.
And you also, I think, allow for an alternative online course, but the CJCC would have to approve that one.
Yes, sir.
As well.
Part 3, Section 3-1 and Section 3-2. I'm sorry, before I jump ahead to Part 3, let me just say Section 2-2 of Part 2, Section 2-2 was a great amendment that came from Senator Jackson during committee to increase it from 17 years of age or older to 18 years of age or older, so that if minors are included in anything that would be related to massage, masturbation for hire, anything in that area, that we're not charging minors for that, and that the sole responsibility lies with the adults involved with that. Part 3, Section 3-1, Section 3-2, this was a floor amendment that came from Senator Estevez, and this was language from a bill that did not get favorable passage earlier this year. And so what we did is add his language in there to ensure that we can work on dismissal of charges that are accumulated for people that are victims, truly victims in this, and ensure that we're not having criminal record histories on people that were forced to do this against their will.
I think you've already got the statute you're amending allows that, or if there's a regular conviction and sentence. What I gathered from those code sections, it appeared they were 42860 looks like it's something like first offender, and 16132 seems to be a specialized first offender for a Controlled Substance Act violation. So I guess you're making it clear that even if you got a first offender sentence, that could be vacated if it was a result of human trafficking, so you'd still have your first offender available for later.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, sir.
Okay. At least that was my interpretation, and I'm glad you confirmed that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And then line 274 says exactly that. It strikes conviction and sentence to access to the criminal history record of such offense, and that's in there multiple times. And that, in whole, summarizes the bill. I know that in many conversations with Madam Chair Silcox, she is going to be carrying this bill, and I believe you may have some a small amendment that we had discussed. Yes.
Okay. All right. Why don't we've got a few lights blinking. Let me go ahead and get you a few questions. Representative Neal.
Thank you to the chair. Thank you to the author. On line the innkeeper section, to page 9, around the 207, we talk about what happens. 207. Establishment who complies in good faith with this code section is not liable for any act or omission arising out of or related to yada yada yada. After that, I don't see where it says what happens if they don't comply, if they don't do the training. Like, what's the penalty?
Well, there's no penalty for. So 207 through 211, is that what we're focusing on?
Well, it's like, so it looks like this whole section defines all the aspects of this, and it says it speaks to it being required. Every innkeeper 195 shall require its employees to do this training, but I'm just asking, if they don't, then what?
I would refer to Chair Silcox on that.
12, 11.
To Representative Neal, we had a discussion with I had a discussion with Jay Neal, who of course is the head of the CJCC, as well as industry this morning, and the state does not currently have an enforcement mechanism for this bill, and it would be very costly, and they did not want to incur that cost or that appropriation at this time. So we just agreed that that it would be better, because it does say in good faith that it would be on the industry to show compliance. And of course, they if they are sued, they would have to prove. And it's my understanding, again, from the industry that the major chains already do a lot of compliance. They do training because the turnover in the hospitality industry is about 30% of employees per year. And so the major chains already do a lot of training. This bill would also include the by especially including the language innkeeper, it would include the non-brands and force them to comply. And so CJCC has said that they have the resources to produce a video where there would be a certification by the employee at the end that they could do this video, have the compliance, and again, the onus would be on the industry to prove, in case they were sued, that their employees had done the video.
Okay, so there's no penalty, just
No penalty, just showing compliance for liability
Gotcha.
purposes.
thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I believe Chairman Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Still, thanks for fighting human trafficking in Georgia. I know the First Lady's done a great job on that. A lot of members of this committee, as well as the House and Senate, have been trying to get this evil out of Georgia, and appreciate this measure. Couple of questions. One, have you heard about a potential amendment of adding advocates for human trafficking around line 80, and is that something that's friendly?
Not only is it friendly, it is encouraged,
Okay.
and I think that would be a wonderful addition to put in there.
Thank you. At the appropriate time, I'll propose that. The second is on anything having to do with money and bills. I've heard be on the lookout and make sure it complies on Treasury and revenue and things like that. It's my understanding you've checked out and made sure this is not a revenue bill that would need to originate in the House, right?
No, there is no revenue created. There is no fiscal note required. This is going to be funded by fines and civil forfeiture only.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Representative Reeves. Mr. Chairman, where'd he go? There he is.
He's sneaky like that.
Well, I made him wait over there a long time.
Sorry about that. No. I wait in line like everybody else on the committee. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator, thank you for bringing this bill. I'll direct you to lines 52 through 59, and I'll just be interested in your opinion on this. As far as this being tied to, in a sense, revenue. Is this, thank you, is this anyhow, in your opinion, or do you think it could be construed as being a revenue bill?
No, Mr. Chairman, this is not designed to be a revenue bill in any way, shape, or form. There's no allocation of funds coming from the state.
Okay, but it does, as you would agree, or would you agree that line 57, that it reads down to 59, the state treasurer shall credit to the fund all amounts transferred to the fund and shall invest the fund monies in the same manner as authorized for investing other monies in the state treasury?
As directed by the new commission. Yes,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the appropriate time, I'd like to offer the Reeves-Silcox amendment. And my addition would be really small. My addition would be. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I apologize.
We've got some other folks who want to talk to the
Okay,
bill, so
okay.
I thought, but I'll tell you what, why don't we go ahead and just let you, we can go ahead and let you just describe what the amendment is so we can all be sort of absorbing it if you'd like to.
The CJCC asked that we strike at line 199, since they specialize in the training for this, that we strike Georgia Bureau of Investigation and put Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, because this is really their wheelhouse. So that's my amendment. Thank you.
Okay, so we would just strike Georgia Bureau of Investigation on 199 and replace it with Criminal Justice Coordinating Council.
Correct.
Okay. Was there also a Reeves part of that or a Silcox part of that in addition to that?
Yes, I was going to go back to, I believe, line 80, excuse me, line 80, and add also in that list there, wherever you want to put it, we could start on 79 and add to include, after human services, an advocate for victims of human trafficking.
That was to include an advocate for victims.
Correct, of human trafficking. And that's it.
Would that be,
After it says Department of Human Services, comma,
so right before the at the end of the line?
correct, an advocate for victims of human trafficking.
Mr. Chair, I think that if we do that, we would have to amend 73 to increase from 6 to 7.
That was where I was headed. I was trying to, it was
Okay.
taking me a while to cipher that out, to use Jethro Bodine's term, to see if we were adding some extra members to it, but I think we are. So we've got Director of DFACS is a permanent member, then the Chairman of the CJCC, Commissioner of Behavioral Health, Director of DFACS.
Actually, Mr. Chair, respectfully, if we at the end of line 82, and Madam Chair Silcox, at the end of the sentence on line 82, where it says the President, Senate, and Speaker of the House of Representatives shall each appoint one member of the commission, we could, without changing the size of the commission, we could say, comma, at least one of these members shall include. That way, one of their
Okay.
appointees
Sure,
is. That way, we're not changing the structure of the commission.
that's great. Yeah. At least one.
Uh,
Yeah, at least
At
one.
least one of whom shall be an
Yeah,
advocate for the
advocate.
victims
Mhm.
of human trafficking.
Perfect.
And I would presume the Speaker and the President of the Senate could work out who would take that one and who would get another appointment.
Or both.
Representative Neal?
Yes, thank you to the chair. So I have a question. So if, I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, I thought the appointment from a House and Senate needed to be a House and Senate member. So the advocate would need to be an external person, because I thought the point of the appointment from House and Senate was, no?
I don't read the language that way. It just
Gotcha.
says they shall each appoint one member. It doesn't say they have to necessarily be a member of the body.
Gotcha, okay.
In my experience, Madam, I believe oftentimes they are from the community, leaders in the community.
All right, Representative Gullett.
Yeah, just to speak to that amendment, I like the amendment, especially the way that the senator worded it as far as that. But I do think we need to specify who's going to do that. I have done in other bills in the past where appointments are made, and there needs to be specificity in that, because ultimately we're really requiring the pro tem in the Senate to do that, or the Speaker. I think we just need to decide who that's going to be versus leaving it up to them, because there'll be a, just pick one and make them have to do that, I think is where I would be on that.
All right. Does the author wish to comment on that?
If it's the will of the committee, we could amend the amendment to say, shall each appoint one member of the commission who are advocates for victims of human trafficking.
I kind of like that. And we haven't amended yet. I just was having the amendments discussed, so, but I like the proposal you've made there. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, would it be prudent to suspend for about 5 minutes to get all the language where we want it?
Sir, I would say so.
Okay. I was thinking out loud there, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman. I'll defer to you.
No, I think that's a good idea. Why don't we've still got to hear from some witnesses. If it's all right, Mr. Chairman, why don't we let some of them go ahead and testify, and then we could suspend? Would that be agreeable? So why don't we, if there are any other questions for the sponsor, I don't see any. We'll go ahead and let some of our witnesses who've appeared here for these testify. Taylor, I think you're here for both of these as well, aren't you?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity to testify. For the record, again, Taylor Hawkins with Frontline Policy Council. We just want to urge this committee to vote to pass these pieces of legislation. Trafficking, obviously, is a grave offense, and I have personal testimony that I could offer to that extent, but these are heinous individuals, and facilitating the ability to pay for the rehabilitation of those who've been victimized by them, facilitating that to be paid by those who have done the victimizing, I think is a very prudent step, a very sound one, and we would definitely be in full support of that and urge this committee to move these along. Seem to be in full agreement on the sub as well as I had brief time to examine it, but obviously the hospitality industry sees a lot of this. And so equipping them with the mandatory training, I think, is a very wise step. And we're in support of the sub as far as I saw as well. And I would urge this committee to vote to pass both of these pieces of legislation. I want to thank the senator for his strong work on this and look forward to passing these pieces of legislation.
Thank you. Any questions for Taylor? I don't see any. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. McConnell, I think you're signed up for both these as well.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. I'm here today. I represent Street Grace. And we were actually, I know many of you that have been around for a while are certainly familiar with Street Grace. And in fact, we were with the senator. He joined us just week before last for our day here with over 100 advocates. And both pieces of this legislation, both the Senate bill as well as the resolution, we strongly endorse, and it's actually one of our priorities. But Street Grace was actually founded back in 2009. I was the first representative as a lobbyist fighting, for Street Grace back in 2009, and wanted to commend we've come a long way since that time. But we still have good legislation like this, and we certainly appreciate Senator Steele, because we still need to make additional changes. And so we appreciate you bringing this bill before, and I certainly do hope that the committee will act favorably on both these pieces of legislation today.
Thank you. I think you have a question.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Reeves?
We've now covered my whole district. You do a great job in Swanee, representing City Council in Swanee, and then Street Grace. You brought someone from the National Street Grace here, and I appreciate them coming. And then in Duluth, there was a civic organization that did some work with Street Grace recently. So they do great work fighting human trafficking in Atlanta. It'll be a good day when that evil is finally out of town.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And I also have the privilege of serving on the statewide task force under CJCC. We have the task force with just hundreds of participants statewide, and also now a new coalition, and I work on the public policy side under CJCC's direction. So, and got my own personal representative here today and a lot of friends, but thank you so much for the opportunity to speak.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could point out also, Swanee and Duluth, as well as Gwinnett Police, have educated and are on the lookout for human trafficking in hotels and other places where sometimes that gets harbored in other places. So having local police knowledgeable about this evil and out there proactively handling it is part of the strategy of success in getting rid of this.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Maisie Lynn Girton.
I will not take much of your time. Chairman, thanks so much for hearing from us. Maisie Lynn Girton, the Executive Director at the Georgia Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. Senator Still and I connected before session, really, started a little bit of conversation on this issue. The point of nexus for us here, my organization, and this legislation is the civil forfeiture piece. And we're really appreciative of the work that he's done to make sure that people do not lose their property without a conviction. And he also tightened up the Eighth Amendment requirements under, for instance, there's a Toombs case, but others that prevent the state from taking property beyond what's directly related to the crimes that are an issue in the conviction. And I certainly will commend this language going forward in future civil asset forfeiture work that comes out of this body. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just curious, which language is that?
Sorry, yeah, I had the line number for a second and then I lost it.
Probably 10 versions ago, but
it's in here. This is your new
you
one.
got the new one?
It is at lines 159 through
Directly or
162.
indirectly used or intended for use in any manner?
Right, upon a conviction.
I see, okay.
All very helpful language. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. I don't see any questions. All right, Are there any other witnesses here who, or any folks here who wanted to testify to Senate Bill 512 or Senate Resolution 616?
Mr. Chairman, one more.
Sure.
Sorry for being late. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Chris Hardman. I'm with the Georgia Hotel and Lodging Association, and I also have my friends from the American Hotel and Lodging Association and the Asian American Hotel Owners Association, either here or online. I want to first commend and thank Senator Still for bringing this very, very important piece of legislation forward. Chair Silcox for carrying this in the House. This is an issue that we have made collectively our number one priority, not just in Georgia, but around the nation and all the other hotel associations around the nation. So much so that over the past 3 years, we've nationally, we've trained over 1 million employees and provided free online training for over 1 million employees. And we would love to see this legislation move forward, and we want to echo our unwavering support and ask you all to vote yes for Senate Bill 512. So thank you, Mr. Senator. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for this witness? I don't see any. Thank you very much. Did you say, were there other witnesses you had who wished to testify?
I'm sorry, I was speaking on behalf of all three of them.
Okay,
So all
okay.
the major associations.
All right, thank you. We appreciate that. All right, I think to the chairman's point, let's suspend for just a few minutes and see if we can. Oh, there is. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Come on up. I saw you move your seat, and I didn't really think about what that implied, so my apologies.
So thank you, Chairman. My name is Dr. Jennifer Bivens, and I'm actually the president and CEO of the Georgia Network to End Sexual Assault. And so to y'all's point about having the advocates, on there, I do think it's very important. Obviously, you've got the state positions on there, which obviously need to be a part of that. But I think sometimes what is missing is the advocacy pieces, from the day to day. And so strongly encourage not only from somebody from the human trafficking position, but also to as a researcher and somebody who's over the sexual assault coalitions in our centers, do all of the exams for human trafficking victims that are coming through. So I do think it's important to have maybe a couple of advocates, like I said, on there, just to be able to give a voice to from the boots on the ground position and what that looks like. So, but yeah, very much so we support this, and thank you guys for giving this time. So, thank you.
Sure. Thank you for your testimony. Any questions? I don't see any questions. Thank you very much. All right. Anybody else who wanted to testify to the bill? Let me just make sure. All right. So why don't we just spin for a few minutes while we scrub up that language a little bit, and we'll come back in just a minute. All right, I'll go ahead and call us back to order. I think we've heard from everybody who wishes to speak to Senate Bill 512 or the Senate Resolution 616. So this time I'll entertain a motion to pass on the underlying bill, and then we'll hear some amendments after that. Do I have a motion? I have a motion to pass. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All right, do I have any amendments?
Yes.
Chair Lady Silcox, you want to make your amendments? Let's see.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So going back to line 82, after the period at one member of the commission, we would add the sentence, the appointees of both the House and Senate shall both be advocates for victims of human trafficking.
Okay.
And then on page 9, at line 199, we would strike Georgia Bureau of Investigation and add in Criminal Justice Coordinating Council.
Okay.
And that is the amendment.
All right, thank you. Holly, let me ask, is she, oh, she's gone.
She's in the room.
I wonder if we need to just make it parallel, say the appointees of the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives shall be, et cetera.
Of course.
Okay, all right. All right, so we've got an amendment on the floor. It is to add after the word commission, and the period after the word commission on line 82, a new sentence that would read, the appointees of the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives shall both be advocates for victims of human trafficking. And then the other change was simply to strike on line 199 the words Georgia Bureau of Investigation and replace it with the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. All right, do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the amendment? All right, all those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. All right, now let's move on to the motion to adopt Senate Bill 512 as amended. Do I have we've got a motion and a second already. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. All right, so Senate Bill 512 as amended passes, and then we need to take up the resolution. Which,
616.
thank you, 616, here it is, I've stashed it over here. So Senate Resolution 616, do I have a motion to pass?
To pass.
I have a motion to pass, do I have a second? I have a second, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. All right, that resolution also has a do pass recommendation. So I understand that the chairman, it may be early next week before he can take these up in full committee, but we'll get to them early in the week for you. All right, thank you so much. All right, and I believe that concludes our business today of the subcommittee, so we'll, unless I'm forgetting something, we'll stand adjourned.